Welcome to our video exploring the fascinating world of Pokemon and their placement on the Tree of Life. Today, we take a closer look at Flareon and its evolutionary connection to Ninetales. Ready? Let's go! The red fox is the only Central European representative of the true foxes, and is therefore often referred to simply as the fox. It's also the most widespread wild canid in all of Europe. Red foxes show remarkable variation in body size depending on geography and season. Males typically weigh 5 to 8 kilograms, while females usually reach 5 to 6.5 kilograms. Exceptionally large individuals can weigh up to 14.5 kilograms, though such cases are rare. Their body length, excluding the tail, averages 65 to 75 centimeters in males and 62-68 centimeters in females, with bushy tails that add another 30 to 45 centimeters. The classic red fox coloration is reddish above and white below, but the exact tone varies dramatically across their range. Several distinct color variants exist. Birch fox, the common form with yellow-red fur, a white throat, and a white tail tip. Coal or fire fox, darker overall with deep reddish-brown fur and no white tail tip. Cross fox, marked by a dark stripe across the shoulders and along the spine. Silver fox, a striking dark gray to black morph, historically prized for its fur. Red foxes shed their coat twice a year. The dense winter coat begins to molt in early April, giving way to a lighter summer coat by September. By October, the luxurious winter coat starts growing again, perfect for colder months. Their tracks reveal 3 distinct gaits. Trot, hind paws land slightly ahead of the forepaws, creating a subtly angled track. Fast trot, stringing, paws step into each other's prints, making a neat bead-like line about 30 centimeters apart. Escape run, variable stride lengths and patterns, depending on speed and terrain. A fox's paw print resembles that of a small dog, but with key differences. A more elongated shape, forward-pushed central toe pads, a rounder main pad, and a larger space between the toe pads and heel pad. The footprint of a domestic cat can help distinguish it from a fox. Cat tracks are smaller, rounder, and typically show no claw marks, since cats retract their claws while walking. Occupied fox dens are recognizable by scattered prey remains, patches of bare, sandy soil, and characteristic footprints. Literature often describes the smell around a fox den as a penetrating predator odor. However, scent perception varies by observer, and the smell is often the result of urine markings near the entrance, not necessarily a sign that a fox is currently inside. Foxes are impressively vocal animals and produce a wide range of sounds. A 3 to 5 syllable bark. Wow, wow, wow. Hoarser than a dog's. This rutting bark is most common from December to February and likely serves to maintain contact over long distances. A long, drawn-out, single-syllable scream, wah, heard frequently during mating season. Both sexes can produce it, though it's often associated with vixens calling to males. A trill-like clucking or whining used during greetings among adults and escalating to shrieks in social tension. Keckern, a rapid, toneless KKK, heard during aggressive encounters, cub play, and when vixens respond to courting males. A soft, rough blowing sound used by adult foxes when greeting their young. Alarm calls from adults to warn cubs. At close range, a muffled cough. At greater distances, sharper barking. As territorial animals, foxes rely heavily on scent marking. Their urine contains sulfur-based compounds such as methyl, 3-methyl-but-3-enyl sulfide, and 2-phenylethylmethyl sulfide, giving it a potent, distinctive odor. The red fox is the most widely distributed wild carnivore on Earth. Its range extends, in North America, from the Aleutian Islands to Newfoundland, with the exception of Arizona, southern Florida, and parts of the Alberta-Mexico corridor. Across Eurasia, from Ireland to the Bering Sea. In the mid-19th century, English settlers introduced red foxes to Australia for traditional fox hunting. The continent's slow-moving native marsupials were poorly adapted to this new predator, making them easy prey. As a result, foxes spread rapidly across Australia, everywhere except the Northern Territory and Northern Queensland. By 1893, bounties were offered in attempts to control their numbers. New Zealand remains free of foxes, while Tasmania continues eradication efforts to protect native wildlife. Today, the red fox is listed among the 100 most dangerous invasive species globally due to the ecological disruption it causes outside its natural range. The red fox, as a classic opportunistic feeder, places very few demands on its environment. Forests, grasslands, and agricultural fields all offer suitable habitat. Yet in recent decades, foxes have also become remarkably successful urban dwellers. Urban foxes were first documented in the 1930s in the suburbs of London, a shift toward low-density residential neighborhoods with abundant gardens and green spaces created ideal conditions for foxes to move in. In many northern English cities, however, urban foxes didn't appear until the 1980s. Around the same time, observations from major continental cities such as Berlin, Oslo, Paris, and Zurich increased steadily, though they were initially regarded as isolated cases. Since around 1990, urban fox populations have also been reported in Australia, Japan, and North America. A genetic study conducted between 2010 and 2015 in the Greater Berlin region identified two distinct fox populations, one urban and one rural, with limited mixing. Cities offer foxes several key advantages: quiet, undisturbed areas at night, cemeteries, parks, and gardens, small-scale, structurally diverse environments, abundant food resources, from compost heaps and food waste to fruits, insects, rodents, and rabbits, safe hiding spots such as sheds, woodpiles, and overgrown railway edges, minimal hunting pressure as large-scale fox control is nearly impossible in metropolitan settings. Population density also influences how large a fox's home range becomes. This was clearly observed in Bristol before and after a mange epidemic. In 1990, prior to the outbreak, the average home range was about 29 hectares. By 1999, after mange reduced the population, it had expanded to around 169 hectares. Intriguingly, a 2020 study on London's foxes revealed morphological changes, including shorter snouts, a pattern reminiscent of traits seen in early domestication processes. Similar changes have been documented in other species, such as the evolution of domestic dogs. Red fox dens are versatile structures. In addition to the main tunnel and the central chamber, dens typically feature multiple escape routes. The excavated soil is pushed backward between the fox's legs, forming a mound at the entrance. Foxes may also occupy abandoned badger setts, and if the den system is large enough, it can even be used simultaneously by multiple species. Urban foxes are especially flexible. They readily raise their young beneath garden sheds, in wood piles, tree stumps, or natural crevices. In a study from Berlin's Neukölln district, earthen burrows accounted for 32.1% of dens, while 34.0% were located in or beneath buildings, garages, and sheds. Other nesting sites included compost heaps, sand piles, and stacked timber. After a gestation period of just over 50 days, the vixen gives birth, typically to 4 to 6 cubs. Weighing only 80 to 100 grams, fox cubs are born dark, short-furred, and blind, opening their eyes at about 2 weeks. By 3 weeks, the fur on the head develops a brownish sheen, while the rest of the coat lightens. Their teeth, especially the sharp canines, begin to emerge, and before long, the young are exploring the tunnels of the den and the world just beyond its entrance. At the beginning of the 4th week, the parents bring the first solid food. For the cubs, this marks the start of weaning from the mother's milk. In the first weeks after birth, the vixen rarely leaves the den. During this time, the dog fox provides her with food. Although the vixen can raise the cubs alone, care by both parents or additional group members increases the survival chances of the young. The sometimes observed predominance of rearing by vixens may be due to the fact that more males than females are shot during winter drives, as well as the occurrence of polygamy. Foxes can live up to 14 years in captivity. Most foxes die before reaching 1 year of age. Often 95% of the animals in a population are not older than 4 years. Especially in autumn and winter, migration, leading to a higher number of traffic accidents, and seasonal intensive hunting cause increased mortality among young foxes. In Bristol, the average age of the population before a major mange outbreak was 18 months. In London, during a period of heavy hunting, 14 months. In rural regions of England, up to 80% of killed animals were younger than 1 year. Of 1,169 foxes found dead or shot in Berlin between 2007 and 2009, 51% were 1 year old. The average age was 18 months, and the oldest fox was 11 years old. The youngest population documented so far was in Iowa, where double bounties for fox pelts were paid for 7 years. 84% of the foxes killed were younger than 1 year. Social status and age are linked. Dominant urban foxes in Bristol averaged 4.5 years, while subordinate animals averaged 2.1 years. Until the 1970s, foxes were considered solitary animals living in territories and defending them against conspecifics. At the end of the 1970s, English studies near Oxford showed that foxes there lived in family groups and displayed a pronounced social life. Similar findings have since been reported from other regions. Foxes live in family groups and lead a complex social life, the details of which are not yet fully understood. The basis of each group is a dog fox and a vixen. Where mortality is low, the pair may remain together for life. Where mortality is high, changes occur more frequently. In addition to the breeding pair, one or more subordinate individuals may belong to the group. In years with favorable food supply, subordinate vixens may also bear young. Subordinate individuals are often offspring of the pair from the previous year who have not dispersed or former dominant individuals. They assist the breeding vixen in raising the cubs. Genetic studies of urban foxes in Bristol revealed 1 to 3 litters per group. Both males and females mated with more than one partner within a group, resulting in litters with multiple fathers. Within a group, dominant vixens did not mate with subordinate males, while dominant males did mate with subordinate vixens. Dominant and subordinate vixens also bore cubs sired by dominant and subordinate males from other groups. At low population density, no litters with multiple fathers were detected, and the number of litters fathered by males from other groups decreased. The number of subordinate group members is variable, up to 10 individuals among urban foxes in Bristol. Some groups consist only of the breeding pair. Groups that include subordinate members in addition to the pair form under stable environmental conditions, e.g., low mortality, and abundant food supply, both often the case for urban foxes. The sex ratio in Bristol's urban fox groups was balanced at high population density, but shifted in favor of vixens at low density. In addition to family groups, individual dog foxes may also roam without a fixed home range, covering long distances or sharing parts of the home range of a family group while avoiding contact with its members. Fox groups use a common area, which is usually interpreted as a territory defended against members of other groups. Large home ranges, however, cannot be defended against other foxes with the same intensity as small ones. Overall, as home range size increases, the overlap of ranges also increases. Besides studies from English cities, family groups have also been described from rural areas, such as the Swiss Jura. A study in the Feldberg region of Baden-Württemberg, on the other hand, found no evidence of social groups, mutual avoidance behavior, or territoriality despite stable external conditions. The 7 adult foxes monitored simultaneously by telemetry remained site-faithful, and their home ranges overlapped. The extent of overlap varied from minor intersections to almost identical ranges. Frequent encounters could be explained by the shared use of certain areas. The interpretation of space use in other studies as territorial behavior is discussed against the background that territoriality was assumed when home range overlap was low, or that foxes whose ranges overlapped widely were considered to occupy a territory as a group. It should be noted, however, that foxes choose their habitats also based on the distribution of key resources such as food sources. The distribution of home ranges thus reflects the conditions of the habitat. From this, it does not necessarily follow that animals whose ranges concentrate in certain areas defend a common territory, nor that these individuals form social groups. Aggressive behavior observed between foxes may also be due to their immediate proximity and/or rank disputes, and need not necessarily be a sign of territoriality. During foraging, foxes are usually solitary. Studies of urban foxes in Bristol showed frequent short contacts within family groups, with longer contacts used for play or mutual grooming. A fox met each other group member on average 1.5 to 2 times in 24 hours. In winter, the encounter rate increased to up to 3 times per night. Most of these encounters were friendly. In contrast, a study in the Bavarian Forest National Park found only few contacts. The observed foxes apparently avoided each other even at the best feeding sites. Simultaneous use was rare and occurred only in autumn when temporarily clustered food sources such as fallen fruit appeared. Studies of urban foxes in Bristol showed that more males than females disperse from the parental territory. Adult individuals may also disperse. Whether an individual disperses depends on several factors. The larger the group and the litter from which the individual originates, and the lower its social status, expressed, for example, by the number of positive social contacts such as mutual grooming, the higher the likelihood of dispersal. Kinship with the dominant dog fox had no influence among Bristol's urban foxes, but kinship with the dominant vixen did. Males with dominant mothers dispersed more often than males with subordinate mothers, while dispersing females more often had subordinate mothers. The red fox is an undemanding omnivore. It adjusts its diet quickly to fluctuations in prey populations and generally makes do with whatever is easy to catch and provides high energy content, opportunistic feeding. The composition of its diet is therefore locally and seasonally variable. Important prey animals are field mice and, at least regionally, for example in the Camargue or in some parts of England, rabbits. Earthworms are hunted especially on fresh grassland soils. Because of their fat and protein content, they represent an energy-rich food source. The red fox is generally unable to catch healthy adult European hares or roe deer, but it can prey on young or weakened individuals. Domestic chickens, geese, and ducks are taken mainly during the cub rearing period, when the family's food demand is particularly high. Fruits play an important role in summer, with sweet varieties such as cherries, plums, and mirabelles especially favored. On the west coast of central Italy, juniper berries are the primary food source for local foxes throughout the year. Foxes, like many other mammals, also contribute to the dispersal of plant fruits. In Spain, for example, they play a significant role in spreading the fruits of Ziziphus lotus, a buckthorn species. Carrion can likewise be an important component of their diet. In urban environments, natural prey such as rodents account for only a small portion of a fox's food intake. Instead, they rely largely on cultivated fruits, kitchen waste, including compost and meat scraps, and food left out for cats or birds. Foxes also cache food. They dig a roughly 10-centimeter deep hole in loose soil, place the food inside, and cover it with earth and leaves to conceal it. The cache is later found again using their sense of smell. Although wolves seldom eat foxes and generally do not hunt them, they kill foxes whenever the opportunity arises. As a result, foxes avoid wolf territories in Italy. In Alaska, however, a more peaceful coexistence has been observed. Wolves showed no signs of harassing foxes. Foxes fed on the remains of wolf kills, and wolves even enlarged fox dens to raise their own young. Nevertheless, foxes issue warning calls when wolves approach dens containing cubs. Lynxes, on the other hand, do prey on foxes. Studies from Sweden and Spain suggest that dense lynx populations may limit fox numbers. Red foxes are capable of killing adult roe deer only when deep snow restricts the deer's movement. Typically, they prey on fawns less than 2 months old. Numerous studies across different countries and time periods illustrate the fox's impact on roe deer populations. In the Bernese Midlands, a single fox is estimated to kill an average of 11 fawns between May and July. In Scandinavia, where mange caused a dramatic decline in fox populations in the late 1970s and 1980s, the average number of fawns raised per doe increased by 30%, and roe deer populations grew by 64%. On the Norwegian island of Gjøa, foxes killed nearly half of all newborn fawns within their first months, whereas on nearby Storfosna, where foxes are absent, only 18% of newborns died. On Gjøa, significantly more fawns hiding in meadows fell prey to foxes. It is considered possible that red foxes can infer the location of hidden fawns by observing the behavior of the mother. Badgers and foxes can successfully rear their young together in the same den, though in some cases, the young of one species may be killed by the other. As fox cubs grow older and more active, most badgers appear to feel disturbed and vacate the den. This reaction is not linked to fox scent. Studies at feeding sites and at dens inhabited by badgers, but not simultaneously by foxes, showed that most encounters between the two species were non-aggressive. When aggression did occur, the badger dominated, delivering brief attacks without body contact. At feeding sites, badgers drove foxes away more frequently than at dens. Otherwise, the two species generally ignored each other. There is evidence that foxes sometimes seek the proximity of badgers, possibly in anticipation of food. Foxes may also share dens with other species such as polecats, wild rabbits, or shelducks. In such cases, they maintain a kind of truce in the immediate vicinity of the den, leaving potential prey animals unharmed. Pine martens and stone martens avoid red foxes, which may prey on both species. However, pine martens are also capable of preying on young foxes. After the mange outbreak of the 1980s in Sweden, the fox population declined, while the pine marten population increased. It is suspected that foxes may influence pine marten numbers through predation. A negative effect on pine martens due to fox predation is also assumed for Norway, whereas a study in Finland found no evidence that foxes affect pine marten populations at a broader scale. Research in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern likewise detected no negative impact of raccoon dogs or raccoons on fox populations under favorable resource conditions, likely because the species use habitats differently. In urban areas, foxes and domestic cats encounter each other frequently, but generally ignore one another. In conflicts, the fox usually retreats. Fighting is rare, and attempts to prey on very young kittens or cats weakened by illness or injury occur only under exceptional circumstances. Observations have documented joint play, sitting together, and occasional displacement between the species. Fox hunting behavior resembles that of cats, evident in their slow stalking and characteristic mouse pounce. Foxes also climb better than most other canids. Although foxes and cats belong to different zoological families, they have undergone convergent evolution due to their shared specialization in hunting small rodents. Golden eagles and white-tailed eagles do not primarily prey on red foxes, but both are capable of killing adult individuals. Eagle owls can prey on young foxes, though adults are no longer part of their diet. The first scientific description of the red fox was published by Carl Linnaeus in the 10th edition of Systema Naturae in 1758. The species belongs to the genus Vulpes. In a recent Canid Systematics based on molecular genetic data, Vulpes was identified as the sister taxon to the raccoon dog, Nectarutes procyanoides, based on comparisons of 15 kilobases of exon and intron sequences. The bat-eared fox, Otocyon megalotis, was identified as the sister species to these two genera. Together, the three form the red fox clade, corresponding to parts of the group formerly summarized as true foxes, Vulpini. This earlier grouping included the gray foxes, Urocyon, which are now considered the basal sister group of all canids. Rüppell's fox, or sand fox, Vulpes rüppelli, is a species of true fox, Vulpini, in the dog family, Canidae. It inhabits the desert and semi-desert regions of North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and Western Asia. Like most foxes, Rüppell's fox is primarily carnivorous, feeding mainly on insects and small mammals. The species name honors the German naturalist and African explorer Eduard Rüppell. Reliable information on population size or trends is lacking, and data on its behavior and ecology remain limited. Due to its broad distribution and the absence of major threats, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, classifies the species as least concern, despite the sparse population data. Rüppell's fox is comparatively small. The head body length is 30 to 40 centimeters, the tail around 30 centimeters, and the weight roughly 2 kilograms, with a documented range of 1.33 to 2.2 kilograms. The hind foot measures 100 to 110 millimeters, and the ears 94 to 98 millimeters. Shoulder height is 30 to 35 centimeters. There is no pronounced sexual dimorphism, though females are, on average, slightly smaller than males. The light and very dense fur is silvery gray to brownish on the upper side due to numerous white hairs, orange sandy or beige along the flanks, and whitish underneath. Very pale individuals also occur. In winter, the animals develop an additional dense undercoat. A cinnamon to reddish-brown stripe runs down the back, narrowing toward the tail. The face is reddish-brown, while the lips, sides of the muzzle, and throat are white. A characteristic dark patch extends from the side of the muzzle to the eye. The vibrissae on the muzzle are well developed and can reach lengths of up to 70 millimeters. The conspicuously large ears are cinnamon red externally and white internally. The reddish-brown legs are comparatively short and include some black hairs. Closer to the feet, they lighten to whitish, and the soles are densely covered with long, soft hairs that completely conceal the pads. The bushy tail, about 30 centimeters long, is sandy-colored and ends in a distinctive white tip. Rüppell's fox is considerably smaller and slimmer than the better-known and closely related red fox, Vulpes vulpes, which partially shares its range. It differs especially in its larger ears and proportionally longer legs. Its fur is finer, softer, and sand gray, whereas the red fox has consistently reddish fur and a black tail tip. The red fox also has black earbacks, unlike the cinnamon-colored ears of Rüppell's fox. Rüppell's fox is clearly distinguishable from other foxes inhabiting the Arabian deserts. Juveniles, however, are often confused with adult fennecs, Vulpes zerta, with which they occur sympatrically. Adult Rüppell's foxes are visibly larger and heavier, with a distinctly longer tail, about 70% of the head body length, compared to about 50% in the fennec. Fennecs also have proportionally larger ears and a black tail tip. The same is true of the pale fox, Vulpes pallida, which occurs sympatrically with Rüppell's fox in the southern Sahara and never has a white tail tip. The Afghan fox, Vulpes cana, differs from Rüppell's fox primarily by its long, bushy tail, which is proportionally longer relative to body length by 6.8% compared to Rüppell's fox, 9.8% compared to the red fox, and 22.5% compared to the fennec. The Afghan fox also has hind legs that are proportionally shorter than those of the other species, while its relative ear length is intermediate between the red fox and the remaining species. The skull is small and narrow, with a basal length of 100 to 105 millimeters and a maximum zygomatic width of 53 to 56 millimeters. The tympanic bulla is well developed, though less prominent than in the fennec. The nasal bones are short, slightly constricted at mid-length, and curve upward toward the front. Only a shallow sagittal crest is present on the brain case. The dentition consists of 3 incisors, 1 canine, 4 premolars, and 2 molars in each half of the upper jaw, and 3 incisors, 1 canine, 4 premolars, and 3 molars in each half of the lower jaw, for a total of 42 teeth. The first molar is noticeably smaller than in other fox species. Rüppell's fox has a haploid chromosome number, N of 20, and a diploid number of 40 chromosomes. The X chromosome is metacentric, and the Y chromosome is very small. The autosomes are metacentric or submetacentric, with only 2 pairs being acrocentric. It is assumed that the genome of the common ancestor of the steppe fox, Tibetan fox, Rüppell's fox, and red fox evolved through chromosomal fusions from an ancestral karyotype with 2 N equals 68 chromosomes, with different fusion patterns occurring in different taxa and species. Several Vulpes species with widely varying chromosome counts were examined in a 2008 study by Grafadatsky and colleagues. As a result, an ancestral chromosome number of 2N equals 78 was assumed for modern foxes of the genus Vulpes, as well as other canid genera. Over time, different lineages gradually reduced this number to the karyotypes of contemporary species. The common ancestor of most Vulpes species is therefore thought to have had 2N equals 68 chromosomes, with the fennec, Vulpes zerta, retaining the highest number at 2N equals 64. The red fox, Vulpes vulpes, the sister species of Rüppell's fox, which was not included in this consideration, has only 2N equals 38 chromosomes. Sequence data for various nuclear and mitochondrial genes are available for these species and are primarily used for phylogenetic analyses. Commonly sequenced regions include cytochrome B, COI, and TOI from mitochondrial DNA, which serve as standard markers in such studies. Rüppell's fox inhabits desert regions of North Africa and Western Asia, ranging from Morocco, Mauritania, and Mali in the west across the Arabian Peninsula to the Iranian Plateau and western Pakistan and Afghanistan in the east. In Africa, its distribution lies north of the 17th parallel, extending along the northern Sahara to northern Somalia. In the Middle East, it reaches northwest to Jordan, Iraq, and Israel, and covers most of the Arabian Peninsula, except for coastal areas along the Red Sea and the main mountain ranges. Its distribution is believed to have shifted historically with desert formation and to have been limited by competition with the Redfox, Vulpes vulpes, and human settlements. For example, in 2007, Rüppell's fox was first documented in Al Dhafra, in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, marking an expansion of its known range in the United Arab Emirates. Rüppell's fox avoids the extremely arid regions of the central Sahara and Arabia, instead occurring primarily in desert fringes, mountain ranges, and near oases. Annual rainfall in its range typically ranges from about 100 to 240 millimeters, with the northern edge of the Sahara receiving at most 150 millimeters per year. Vegetation is sparse, including grasses and herbs such as Fagonia indica, Indigofera spinosa, Panicum turgidum, and species of Tribulus and Stipagrostis in Saudi Arabia, Hamadascoparia, Panicum turgidum, and Fagonia species in Morocco, and acacias, argan trees, Balanites aegyptiaca, Merua crassifolia, and Capparis decidua in Wadis. The species occupies sandy and rocky desert habitats, foraging primarily at dusk or during the night, and remaining inactive in the hours before sunrise. During the day, foxes rest in underground dens, although they may occasionally be active in winter daylight hours. They use two distinct types of dens, breeding dens and resting dens. Breeding dens are used only during cub rearing by a pair and may have 1, rarely up to 5 entrances, dug by the female. Resting dens are smaller, typically housing a single animal, and usually have only 1 entrance. These dens are frequently changed, on average every 4.8 days. Foxes often reuse burrows created by other animals, such as the Egyptian spiny-tailed lizard or honey badgers. Like the fennec, Rüppell's fox can survive in completely waterless regions, obtaining all necessary fluids from its food. Its dense fur, hairy foot pads, and winter undercoat are adaptations to extreme temperature fluctuations in its habitat. During the breeding season, foxes live in pairs and share a hunting territory of approximately 50 km². Communication among Rüppell's foxes occurs acoustically through facial expressions and olfactorily via urine marking and anal gland secretions. Acoustic communication is most pronounced during the mating season, typically consisting of series of short barks separated by pauses of 20 to 40 seconds. Other vocalizations include aggressive hissing when disturbed, high-frequency calls, and whistles. As an opportunistic predator, Rüppell's fox feeds primarily on small to medium-sized mammals and insects, but it also consumes birds and plant material. Within its distribution range, the composition of Rüppell's fox's prey varies depending on the species present and their abundance. In Morocco and other parts of North Africa, insects such as grasshoppers and beetles dominate the diet. In the Sahara and Egypt, small vertebrates, including rodents, birds, and lizards, make up a larger proportion. Key lizard prey includes the Egyptian spiny-tailed lizard, Uromastix egyptia, and Arabian sand racers, Messalina spp. Opportunistic feeding is common. For example, in a study of destroyed hawksbill sea turtle, Eretmochelys imbricata, nests in Qatar, Rüppell's fox, along with feral domestic cats and humans, was identified as a potential predator of eggs and hatchlings. Physiologically, the fox is capable of breaking down and digesting bones and teeth, particularly molars, of its prey. It also consumes fruits whenever available. Dates and down palm fruits in oasis regions are particularly important. These are sometimes obtained by actively climbing date palms. Foxes also feed on leaves of succulents, grasses, and other plant material. While generally avoiding human settlements, they occasionally consume fruits and other components of household waste, sometimes ingesting indigestible items such as paper or plastic packaging. Dogs have been present in Africa since the Miocene. Among the oldest finds of the genus Vulpes are jaw fragments from Al-Uglam in Morocco, dating to the Upper Pliocene, about 2.5 million years ago. These were assigned in 2011 to Vulpes hassani, which may represent a precursor of Rüppell's fox. Fossils of Rüppell's fox itself are scarce, but remains of a very similar form, V. cf. Rüppellii, including a frontal skull fragment, lower jaw, and isolated teeth, have been found at sites in northwest Africa such as Tignef, Algeria, Thomas I Quarry, and Oulad Hamida, Morocco, dating to the early Middle Pleistocene, 800,000 to 500,000 years ago. For the late Upper Pleistocene, Rüppell's fox has been identified at Ifrin Amar in northern Morocco, associated with hunter-gatherer remains of the Ibero-Mauritian culture. The first scientific description of Rüppell's fox was by the German naturalist Heinrich Rudolf Schinz in 1825, who classified it as Canis rüppelli within the true dogs, based on a specimen from Dunkula, Sudan. Eduard Rüppell, for whom the species is named, was a contemporary naturalist and African explorer. Later descriptions, including Canis famelicus, Kretschmar, 1826, and Vulpes cyrenaica, Festa, 1921, are now considered synonyms of Canis rüppellii. Today, Rüppell's fox is classified in the genus Vulpes alongside 11 other extant species. Morphological and molecular studies, Beninda Emmons et al., 1999, identify it as the sister species of the red fox, Vulpes vulpes, with both forming a sister group to a taxon containing the Corsac fox V. corsac and Tibetan fox V. farolata. Subsequent studies, Zurzavi and Zichankova, 2004, confirmed its close relationship with the red fox and the Corsac fox, but placed the Tibetan fox basally within the genus. Rüppell's fox shows no particularly close relationship to other desert-adapted Vulpes species. These adaptations evolved independently. Other desert specialists include the fennec V. zerta, Afghan fox V. cana, and North American swift V. velox, and kit fox V. macrotus. According to Wilson and Reeder, 2005, and Lariviere and Seddon, 2001, 5 subspecies are recognized: VR rüppellii, Egypt and Sudan, VR caesia, VR cyrenaica, VR sabea, and VR zarudni. Additionally, Silero Zubiri, 2009, named VR somali from Eritrea and Somalia as another subspecies. That's it for now. In the next episode, we'll take a closer look at Omastar and its surprising connection to cloister. Feel free to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and check in next time.